Hi friends, you're on the Staley channel and today we have a special episode that will definitely give you goosebumps. We've rounded up the craziest and most surprising cheating stories people have shared on Reddit. Get ready for shocking confessions, incredible twists and moments that will definitely stay in your memory for a long time. Don't switch, because what you hear next will make you think about a lot of things. Let's go! I found my friend's text messages that changed how I see all my friends. I never thought I would be the kind of person to invade someone's privacy, yet here I am, grappling with the fallout from the most shocking discovery of my life. It all started innocently enough, but what I found on my friend Lisa's phone completely shattered my trust and made me question everything about my social circle. Lisa and I have been best friends since college. We were roommates during our freshman year and clicked instantly. She was my rock through breakups, bad grades, and family issues. We moved into the same apartment complex after graduation and even got jobs at the same company. We were inseparable, or so I thought. One Friday evening, Lisa came over to my place for our usual movie night. She brought a bottle of wine, and we settled in for a cozy night of catching up and watching our favorite chick flicks. Halfway through our second movie, Lisa got a call from her mom and stepped out onto the balcony to take it. Her phone buzzed on the couch beside me. I glanced at the screen, curious to see who was messaging her so late. It was a notification from a group chat named The Inner Circle. I had never heard of this group chat before, and something about the name piqued my interest. I tried to shake off the curiosity, but the wine had loosened my inhibitions. Before I knew it, I had picked up her phone and unlocked it. Lisa had told me her password ages ago and never changed it. I told myself I would only look for a second, just one quick peek to satisfy my curiosity. But once I opened the chat, I couldn't stop reading. What I saw made my blood run cold. The chat was filled with messages from our closest friends, people I considered family. At first, the conversation seemed mundane, plans for the weekend, gossip about mutual acquaintances. But then I saw my name. They were talking about me, and it wasn't friendly banter. Lisa. I can't stand how clingy she's been lately. She's suffocating me. Sarah, tell me about it. She's always so needy. It's like she can't do anything without you. Mark, classic Rachel, always making everything about her. Emily, she probably doesn't even realize how annoying she is, so oblivious. My heart pounded as I continued to read message after message of my friends tearing me apart. They criticized everything about me, my personality, my habits, even my appearance. The worst part was that Lisa, my supposed best friend, was leading the charge. Lisa, she's just so, exhausting. I feel like I'm constantly babysitting her. Sarah, then maybe it's time to cut her off. You don't owe her anything. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. How could Lisa, the person I trusted most, be saying these things behind my back? How could any of them? I thought we were friends, real friends. The kind that stick by each other through thick and thin. I put the phone down, my hands trembling, and stared blankly at the TV screen, not seeing anything. Lisa came back inside, still laughing about something her mom had said. She plopped down next to me and offered me the bottle of wine. I took a sip, trying to act normal, but my mind was racing. I wanted to confront her right then and there, to demand an explanation, but I knew that would only lead to more pain and awkwardness. Instead, I decided to gather more evidence. If they were talking about me like this, who knew what else they were saying? I needed to know the full extent of their betrayal. So I pretended nothing was wrong and spent the rest of the evening laughing and chatting with Lisa as if nothing had changed. The next few days were torture. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every conversation, every interaction, trying to see if there were signs I had missed. How long had they felt this way about me? Was our entire friendship a lie? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know the truth. I waited until Lisa was at work and used the spare key she had given me to enter her apartment. I knew it was wrong, but I was desperate. I found her laptop on the kitchen table and logged in using the same password as her phone. I navigated to her messages and started reading. What I found was even worse than I had imagined. The Inner Circle chat was just the tip of the iceberg. There were private messages between Lisa and each of our friends, discussing me in even more detail. They had dissected every aspect of my life, mocking my insecurities, my dreams, my fears. They had even shared private conversations I had with them in confidence. Lisa, Rachel told me she's thinking about applying for a promotion. Can you imagine? She can barely handle her current job. Mark, LLOL. She's so delusional. Sarah, I bet she thinks she's going to get it too. She's in for a rude awakening. I felt like I was drowning. These were the people I had trusted with everything. The people I had supported through their own struggles and celebrated their victories. And this is how they repaid me? I knew I had to confront them, but I needed to be smart about it. I decided to bide my time and gather more evidence. I wanted to be absolutely sure there was no misunderstanding, no room for them to wiggle out of it. I took screenshots of the messages and saved them to a hidden folder on my own laptop. Over the next few weeks, I continued to act as if everything was normal. It was excruciating, pretending to be oblivious while my so-called friends continued to talk behind my back. But it gave me the opportunity to see their true colors. Every time they smiled at me, every time they pretended to care, I felt a little piece of my heart break. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to confront Lisa first. She was the ringleader, the one I had trusted most. I invited her over for dinner one evening, just the two of us. I wanted to see her face when she realized I knew everything. As we sat down to eat, I took a deep breath and looked her in the eye. Lisa, we need to talk. She looked surprised, but not alarmed. Sure, what's up? I pulled out my phone and opened the folder with the screenshots. I know about the inner circle chat. I know what you've been saying about me. Her face went pale, and for a moment she looked genuinely shocked. But then she quickly composed herself and tried to play it off. Rachel, it's not what you think. We were just venting. It's not serious. I shook my head, feeling a surge of anger. Not serious? You've been tearing me apart behind my back for months. You've been sharing my private conversations, mocking me, planning to cut me off. How could you do this to me? She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. And don't try to deny it. I've seen the messages, all of them. For a moment, she looked like she might cry, but then her expression hardened. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, we've been talking about you. You're needy, you're exhausting, and sometimes it feels like I'm your babysitter. I'm sorry if that hurts, but it's how I feel. I felt like I'd been slapped. Her words stung, but they also brought a strange sense of clarity. I'd been so desperate to keep my friends that I had ignored all the signs that they didn't really care about me. I had bent over backwards to please them, to be the friend they wanted, and it still wasn't enough. I stood up, feeling a sense of determination. I deserve better than this. I deserve friends who actually care about me, who support me and respect me. I don't need people who tear me down behind my back. Lisa didn't say anything as I walked to the door and opened it. I turned back to her one last time. Goodbye, Lisa. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, but I'm done. With that, I left my apartment and walked away, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. It hurt to lose my best friend, but it also felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to rebuild my life without the people who had betrayed me. Over the next few days, I confronted the rest of the inner circle. Their reactions were varied. Some were apologetic, others defensive, but none of them could undo the damage they had done. I cut ties with all of them and started the process of healing. It's been a few months now, and while it's still painful to think about what happened, I've started to move on. I've made new friends, people who genuinely care about me and support me. I've also learned to be more cautious with my trust, to value quality over quantity when it comes to friendships. Looking back, I'm grateful for the experience, painful as it was. It taught me to stand up for myself, to recognize my own worth, and to surround myself with people who truly care. And most importantly, it taught me that I don't need anyone who doesn't value me for who I am. So, to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, trust your instincts, value yourself, and don't be afraid to let go of people who don't deserve you. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Consider another story. My brother started dating the woman I had an affair with, and now I feel like everything is falling apart. I never thought my life would turn into a tangled mess of secrets and betrayals, but here I am, dealing with the fallout from the most complicated and emotionally draining situation I've ever faced. I need to share my story because I'm lost, confused, and feeling more isolated than ever. My brother James and I have always been close. Growing up, we were inseparable, the perfect siblings. He was my protector, my confidant, and my best friend. We shared everything, from our dreams and fears to our happiest moments. Our bond was unbreakable, or so I thought. 2 years ago, I went through a particularly rough breakup. My long-term boyfriend Alex cheated on me, and I was devastated. The betrayal shattered my trust, and I spiraled into a deep depression. James was there for me through it all, helping me pick up the pieces and encouraging me to move on. A few months after the breakup, I met Sarah at a work conference. She was beautiful, charismatic, and had an energy that drew people in. We hit it off immediately, and our professional relationship quickly turned personal. I wasn't looking for anything serious, but Sarah made me feel alive again. She was everything I needed in that moment, someone who could make me forget my pain and remind me that life was still worth living. Our relationship was intense but short-lived. We had a passionate affair that lasted 6 months, but ultimately, we decided to end things. Sarah was upfront about not wanting a long-term commitment, and I was still healing from my breakup with Alex. We parted ways amicably, and I thought that chapter of my life was closed. Fast forward to a year later. I was finally starting to feel like myself again. I'd focused on my career, rebuilt my social life, and even started dating casually. Things were looking up. Then James introduced me to his new girlfriend, Sarah. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Standing in front of me was the woman I had shared so many intimate moments with, now holding hands with my brother. My heart raced, my palms got sweaty, and I struggled to maintain my composure. James had no idea about my past with Sarah. I'd never told him, or anyone else for that matter. It was a part of my life I had chosen to keep private, a secret I thought I would take to my grave. But now, seeing them together, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. How could this be happening? At first I tried to convince myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe it wouldn't last. Maybe Sarah would recognize me and back off. But as the weeks went by, it became clear that they were serious. Sarah had become a regular fixture at family dinners, and James was smitten. He was happier than I had seen him in years, and it broke my heart. The worst part was that Sarah acted like she didn't know me. Every time we were in the same room, she was the picture of politeness, but there was a glint in her eye that told me she remembered everything. It felt like a cruel game, and I was the only one who knew the rules. I tried to avoid them as much as possible, making excuses to skip family gatherings and declining invitations to hang out, but I couldn't dodge them forever. My parents started noticing my absence and questioned me about it. I didn't have the heart to tell them the truth, so I lied, saying I was busy with work or not feeling well. The more I avoided them, the more isolated I felt. I couldn't talk to anyone about what was happening. How could I explain that my brother's girlfriend was my ex-lover without destroying my relationship with James and causing a rift in my family? The burden of the secret was suffocating, and I felt like I was drowning. Then came the night that changed everything. My parents were hosting a big family dinner to celebrate their anniversary, and I couldn't find an excuse to miss it. I arrived late, hoping to minimize my interactions with Sarah. As I walked into the living room, I saw James and Sarah sitting close together, laughing and talking with our parents. They looked so happy, so perfect, and it twisted the knife in my heart even deeper. I tried to avoid Sarah's gaze, but she caught my eye and gave me a small, knowing smile. I felt my resolve crumbling. Throughout the dinner, I could barely eat or make conversation. My mind was racing, filled with memories of Sarah and the pain of seeing her with James. After dinner, I retreated to the backyard, needing some air. I stood there staring at the stars, feeling more alone than ever. I didn't hear Sarah approach until she was standing right next to me. "Hey," she said softly. I turned to face her, my heart pounding. "Hey!" We stood in silence for a moment, the tension between us palpable. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said finally. "I could say the same," I replied, my voice shaking. She sighed. "Look, I know this is complicated, but James, he means a lot to me." I felt a surge of anger. And what was I, just a fling? Sarah looked taken aback. "No, it wasn't like that. We had something special, but it wasn't meant to last. You know that." I shook my head, feeling tears well up. "How can you stand here and act like this is okay? You're with my brother, Sarah. Do you have any idea how messed up this is?" She reached out to touch my arm, but I pulled away. "I didn't plan for this to happen. I care about James, and I don't want to hurt him." "Then end it," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "If you care about him, end it." Sarah looked at me with a mixture of sadness and determination. "I can't do that. I love him." Her words felt like a punch to the gut. I turned away, unable to look at her. "Then you're going to destroy everything." She didn't say anything else, and after a moment, she walked back inside, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I stayed outside for a long time trying to process everything. How could I protect James from the truth without destroying myself in the process? I knew that telling him would shatter his heart and ruin our relationship, but keeping the secret was eating me alive. The next few weeks were a blur of anxiety and sleepless nights. I couldn't concentrate at work, I avoided my friends, and I felt like I was on the verge of a breakdown. Every time I saw James and Sarah together, it was like a dagger to my heart. One evening I couldn't take it anymore. I called James and asked if we could meet up. He agreed, sensing something was wrong. We met at a quiet coffee shop, and I could see the concern in his eyes. "What's going on, Rachel?" he asked gently. "You've been so distant lately." I took a deep breath, my hands trembling. "James, there's something I need to tell you. It's about Sarah." He frowned, looking worried. "What about her?" I looked down, unable to meet his gaze. "I knew Sarah before you did. We were involved." James stared at me, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. "What do you mean, involved?" I felt tears streaming down my face. "We had an affair. It was a long time ago before you met her. I never told you because I didn't think it mattered anymore. But now she's with you. And I don't know what to do." James sat back, his face pale. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to hurt you," I said, my voice breaking. "I thought it was over, that it didn't matter. But seeing you with her, it's tearing me apart, James." He looked away, his jaw clenched. "I can't believe this. All this time, you've been keeping this from me?" I reached out to touch his hand, but he pulled away. "I'm sorry. I never wanted this to happen. I just didn't know how to tell you." James stood up, looking down at me with a mixture of anger and betrayal. "I need some time to think about this. I can't deal with this right now." He walked out of the coffee shop, leaving me sitting there, my heart shattered. I had hoped that telling him the truth would bring some relief, but it only made things worse. I felt like I had lost my brother and my best friend all at once. The days that followed were some of the darkest of my life. James didn't return my calls or texts, and I felt more alone than ever. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I felt like I was on the verge of a breakdown. Then one evening, James showed up at my apartment. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. I let him in, my heart pounding. "I talked to Sarah," he said quietly. I nodded, unable to speak. "She told me everything," he continued. "She said she never meant to hurt either of us." I felt tears welling up. "I'm so sorry, James. I never wanted this to happen." He looked at me, his expression softening. "I know you didn't, but this is a lot to process." We sat in silence for a long time, the weight of everything hanging between us. "I don't know what to do," James said finally. "I love Sarah, but I can't ignore what happened between you two." "I understand," I said softly. "I don't want to come between you and Sarah. I just couldn't keep this secret any longer." James sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I need time to figure things out, but I don't want to lose you, Rachel. You're my sister and I love you." I felt a glimmer of hope. "I love you too, James. We'll get through this somehow." He nodded, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of relief. It was going to be a long and difficult journey, but at least we were taking the first step towards healing. In the months that followed, James and I worked hard to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, and there were many difficult conversations and moments of tension, but we were committed to finding a way forward, and slowly we began to heal. As for Sarah, she and James decided to take a break. They needed time to process everything and figure out if they could move past the betrayal. It was a painful decision, but it was the right one for both of them. I've learned a lot from this experience. I've learned that secrets have a way of coming to light no matter how much you try to bury them. I've learned that honesty, no matter how painful, is always the best policy. And I've learned that family is more important than anything else. James and I are closer than ever now. We've faced one of the biggest challenges of our lives and come out stronger on the other side. I don't know what the future holds for him and Sarah, but I do know that whatever happens, we'll face it together. So to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, hold on to the people you love, be honest with them, and remember that no matter how dark things seem, there is always a way forward. Let's move on to the next story, how I found out my fiancé was actually married to another man. During our relationship, I've always prided myself on my intuition, my ability to read people and situations with remarkable accuracy. But life has a way of humbling you, of proving that no matter how vigilant you are, you can still be blindsided. This is the story of how I discovered that the woman I was planning to marry had been hiding the most devastating secret imaginable. She was already married to another man. I met Emma 3 years ago at a mutual friend's party. From the moment I laid eyes on her, I was captivated. She had an effortless charm, a contagious laugh, and an intensity in her gaze that made me feel like the most important person in the room. We spent the entire evening talking, laughing, and discovering a shared love for travel, books, and late-night philosophical discussions. By the end of the night, we exchanged numbers, and a whirlwind romance began. Our relationship progressed quickly. Within a few months, we were inseparable. We moved in together after 6 months, and I thought I had found my soulmate. Emma was everything I had ever wanted in a partner: kind, adventurous, intelligent, and deeply passionate. We made plans for the future, talked about starting a family, and even began saving for a house. I was happier than I had ever been, blissfully unaware of the storm that was brewing just beneath the surface. One evening, about a year into our relationship, Emma came home looking unusually distressed. She had always been an open book, sharing her thoughts and feelings without hesitation, but that night she was distant. When I asked her what was wrong, she brushed it off, saying she was just tired from work. I let it go, not wanting to pry, but a seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next few months, I started noticing small, unsettling changes. Emma would get mysterious phone calls that she would take in another room. Her mood would swing unpredictably, and she seemed increasingly preoccupied. Whenever I tried to talk to her about it, she would assure me that everything was fine, that she was just stressed out. I wanted to believe her, but my intuition told me something was wrong. Then, one fateful day, I stumbled upon the first piece of the puzzle. I was cleaning the apartment while Emma was at work when I found an envelope tucked away in the back of her closet. It was addressed to someone named Michael. My heart raced as I opened it, revealing a series of love letters written in Emma's handwriting to a man I had never heard of. The letters were dated over the past 2 years, overlapping with the entirety of our relationship. They spoke of love, longing, and plans for the future. I felt like I was reading a script from a twisted drama, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. Who was Michael, and why had Emma been writing to him? I spent the next few hours in a daze, reading and rereading the letters, trying to make sense of the situation. When Emma came home that evening, I confronted her. She was shocked and defensive at first, but eventually she broke down and confessed. Michael was her husband. Emma had married Michael 4 years ago, long before we met. Their relationship had been rocky from the start, filled with constant arguments and periods of separation. When she met me, she had been separated from Michael for several months and had intended to divorce him. But as our relationship grew more serious, she found herself unable to tell me the truth. She feared losing me, feared the judgment and the fallout that would inevitably come. I was devastated. The woman I loved, the woman I had planned to marry, had been living a double life. My mind raced with questions and doubts. How could she have kept such a monumental secret from me? What else was she hiding? And most importantly, could I ever trust her again? Emma begged for my forgiveness, insisting that she truly loved me and that her relationship with Michael was over. She promised to finalize the divorce immediately and pleaded with me to give her another chance. Despite the betrayal, a part of me still loved her deeply and wanted to believe that we could move past this. Over the next few weeks, I struggled with my emotions. I sought advice from friends and family, trying to make sense of the situation. Opinions were divided. Some urged me to walk away, while others encouraged me to give Emma a chance to make things right. Ultimately, I decided to stay, at least for the time being, to see if we could rebuild the trust that had been shattered. Emma followed through on her promise to divorce Michael. She showed me the legal documents, proof that she was committed to starting anew with me. We began couples therapy, working through the layers of deception and hurt. It was an arduous process, filled with painful revelations and moments of doubt. But slowly, we began to heal. Or so I thought. About 6 months after the initial discovery, I received a phone call that sent my world crashing down once again. It was Michael. He had found my number in Emma's phone and called to confront me. What he told me left me reeling. According to Michael, he and Emma had never been separated. They had been living together the entire time, maintaining the facade of a happy marriage. The love letters I had found were real, but they were part of a larger pattern of deception. Emma had been leading a double life, splitting her time between me and Michael, weaving an intricate web of lies to keep us both in the dark. Michael was just as devastated as I was. He had no idea about my existence, no clue that his wife had been unfaithful for years. We talked for hours, sharing our stories and trying to piece together the truth. It became clear that Emma had been manipulating us both, using our love for her to maintain her double life. When I confronted Emma with what I had learned, she broke down completely. She confessed to everything, admitting that she had been living a lie for years. She claimed to love both Michael and me, unable to choose between us, so she had chosen to deceive us instead. I was furious, heartbroken, and utterly shattered. The woman I loved had betrayed me in the worst possible way, and I knew that I could never trust her again. I ended things with Emma that night, packing my bags and leaving the apartment we had shared. I moved in with a friend, seeking solace and support as I tried to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. In the months that followed, I struggled to rebuild my life. I sought therapy to help process the trauma and regain my sense of self-worth. I leaned on my friends and family, who provided unwavering support and love. Slowly, I began to heal. Emma tried to reach out to me several times, sending letters and messages apologizing for her actions and begging for another chance. I ignored them all, knowing that any further contact would only reopen old wounds. I needed to move on, to find a way to live without the shadow of her betrayal hanging over me. Michael and I stayed in touch for a while, supporting each other through the aftermath of Emma's deceit. He eventually filed for divorce, unable to forgive her for the years of lies. We became friends, bonded by our shared experience, and helped each other navigate the painful process of moving on. Looking back, I realized that I ignored so many red flags. I wanted to believe in the fairy tale, in the perfect love story that Emma and I had crafted together. But the truth was always there, lurking beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. This experience taught me the importance of trust, honesty, and communication in a relationship. It showed me that love built on lies is destined to crumble, and that true love can only flourish in the light of truth. While the pain of Emma's betrayal will always be a part of my story, it no longer defines me. I have emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient, ready to embrace the future with an open heart. So, to anyone reading this who might be going through a similar experience, know that you are not alone. The pain of betrayal can be overwhelming, but with time, support, and self-love, you can heal. Trust yourself, trust your instincts, and never settle for anything less than the love and respect you deserve. Let's move on to the next story. My wife confessed. She had a secret social media account where she was having an affair with my friend Ive, always been a firm believer in transparency and trust in a relationship. My wife Sarah and I had built our marriage on these principles, or so I thought. Little did I know that beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect relationship lay a web of deceit that would leave me questioning everything I believed in. This is the story of how I discovered that the woman I loved and trusted had been living a double life, using a secret social media account to carry on an affair with one of my closest friends. Sarah and I met in college. We were both studying literature, and our shared passion for books and writing brought us together. From the moment we met, there was an undeniable connection. We quickly became inseparable, spending our days discussing our favorite authors, writing stories together, and dreaming about our future. Our relationship was a whirlwind romance, and within a year of dating, we got married. The first few years of our marriage were blissful. We supported each other's careers, traveled the world, and built a life filled with love and laughter. We had our fair share of challenges, but we always faced them together, as a team. Sarah was not just my wife. She was my best friend, my confidant, and my partner in every sense of the word. About a year ago, I started to notice subtle changes in Sarah's behavior. She became increasingly secretive about her phone and computer, often taking calls in another room and quickly closing tabs when I walked by. At first, I brushed it off as paranoia. I trusted Sarah completely and believed that she would never betray me. But as time went on, my suspicions grew. One evening, while Sarah was in the shower, I noticed her phone buzzing with notifications. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to take a quick look. What I found was a flurry of messages from an account I didn't recognize. The username was cryptic, and the messages were flirtatious, filled with inside jokes and references that I didn't understand. My heart sank as I realized that Sarah had been hiding something from me. I confronted her that night, demanding an explanation. She looked shocked and guilty, but she tried to downplay it, saying it was just a harmless online friendship. I wanted to believe her, but the nagging feeling in my gut told me there was more to the story. Over the next few weeks, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Sarah's behavior continued to be secretive, and I found myself growing increasingly anxious and paranoid. I decided to dig deeper, determined to uncover the truth. I started by searching through Sarah's social media accounts, looking for any clues that might explain the mysterious messages. After hours of searching, I stumbled upon a hidden folder on her computer. It contained screenshots of conversations from a secret social media account that Sarah had been using. My hands trembled as I opened the files, my heart pounding in my chest. The messages were explicit and intimate, revealing an affair that had been going on for months. The worst part was that the person she was having an affair with was none other than my close friend, Mark. Mark and I had known each other since high school. We had been through so much together, from teenage misadventures to supporting each other through tough times. He was like a brother to me, and I couldn't believe that he would betray me in such a way. The realization that two of the people I trusted most had been deceiving me was almost too much to bear. I confronted Sarah again, this time armed with the evidence of her betrayal. She broke down in tears, confessing to everything. She admitted that she had created the secret account to escape the pressures of our life and had reconnected with Mark online. What started as innocent conversations had quickly escalated into a full-blown affair. She claimed to regret her actions and begged for my forgiveness. The betrayal cut deep, and I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. I couldn't understand how the woman I loved could do this to me, and I struggled to process the emotions swirling inside me. I needed time to think, to decide whether our marriage could be salvaged or if the damage was too great. I reached out to Mark, demanding an explanation. He was apologetic and remorseful, but his words felt hollow. The trust between us was shattered, and I couldn't see a way to repair the damage. I decided to cut ties with him, unable to continue our friendship after such a betrayal. Sarah and I decided to seek counseling to try and work through the issues in our marriage. The sessions were intense and emotionally draining, forcing us to confront the deep-seated problems that had led to her infidelity. We had to rebuild our relationship from the ground up, learning to communicate openly and honestly, and to trust each other again. The road to recovery was long and difficult, There were days when I wanted to give up, when the pain of betrayal felt too overwhelming. But gradually, we began to heal. Sarah made a genuine effort to regain my trust, being transparent about her actions and cutting off all contact with Mark. She deleted the secret social media account and focused on repairing the damage she had caused. Through therapy, we uncovered underlying issues that had contributed to the breakdown of our marriage. We realized that we had been neglecting our emotional connection, allowing the stresses of everyday life to drive a wedge between us. We committed to making our relationship a priority, to nurturing our bond, and supporting each other in every way. It's been a year since I discovered Sarah's affair, and while the pain of betrayal still lingers, we have come a long way. Our marriage is stronger now, built on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. We have learned to communicate openly, to express our needs and fears, and to support each other through the highs and lows. Looking back, I realized that trust is a fragile thing, easily broken but difficult to rebuild. Sarah's betrayal shook me to my core, but it also taught me valuable lessons about love, forgiveness, and resilience. While I can never forget what happened, I have chosen to forgive and to move forward, to build a future with the woman I still love. To anyone reading this who might be going through a similar experience, know that you are not alone. The pain of betrayal can be overwhelming, but with time, patience, and effort, it is possible to heal. Trust yourself, trust the process, and never be afraid to seek help when you need it. The road to recovery is long, but it is worth it for the sake of love and happiness. Let's move on to the next story. Asterisk. It turns out my best friend didn't just know about my affair, he helped plan it. Asterisk. I've always believed in the importance of friendships. A strong friendship can be a pillar of support through life's ups and downs. That's what I thought I had with my best friend Alex. Little did I know our friendship was built on a foundation of secrets and lies. This is the story of how I discovered that Alex didn't just know about my affair. He was an active participant in planning it. To give you some background, my husband Daniel and I have been married for 8 years. We met in college and had a whirlwind romance that quickly turned into a committed relationship. We married young, filled with dreams and ambitions. Daniel was my rock, always supportive and loving. But as the years went by, our relationship started to show signs of strain. We both had demanding careers, and the stress began to take its toll. Our once passionate relationship became routine, and we found ourselves drifting apart. I missed the excitement and the spark that we once had, but I didn't know how to reignite it. That's when I started to confide in Alex, my best friend since high school. Alex and I had always been close. He was the one person I could talk to about anything. He knew me better than anyone, sometimes even better than I knew myself. When I started feeling disconnected from Daniel, Alex was the first person I turned to. He listened patiently as I poured out my frustrations and fears, always offering a sympathetic ear and thoughtful advice. At first, our conversations were innocent. Alex would reassure me that every marriage goes through rough patches and that Daniel and I just needed to find a way to reconnect. But over time, our talks took a different turn. Alex started to suggest that maybe what I needed was a change, something to shake things up and bring excitement back into my life. It began with small, seemingly harmless suggestions. He'd say things like, "You deserve to be happy, and if you're not getting that from your marriage, maybe it's time to look elsewhere." At the time, I didn't see anything wrong with what he was saying. I was unhappy, and Alex seemed to be the only one who understood that. One night, after a particularly heated argument with Daniel, I met up with Alex for drinks. I was feeling vulnerable and upset, and Alex was there to comfort me. As the night wore on and the drinks kept coming, Alex started to push the idea of having an affair. He told me that it could be a way to reclaim my happiness and that it didn't have to mean the end of my marriage. I was resistant at first. The thought of being unfaithful to Daniel made me feel guilty and ashamed. But Alex was persistent. He told me that it didn't have to be a big deal, just something to help me feel alive again. He even went so far as to suggest potential candidates, friends of his who he knew were also unhappy in their relationships. Looking back, I can't believe how easily I was swayed. But at the time, I was desperate for something to change, and Alex's words made sense. He made it seem like it was a solution to my problems, not a betrayal of the man I had promised to love and cherish. And so, with Alex's encouragement, I agreed to the idea. What I didn't realize at the time was how deeply Alex was involved in orchestrating the affair. He introduced me to Ethan, one of his friends who was also going through a rough patch in his marriage. Alex made all the arrangements, setting up secret meetings and providing alibis. He even let us use his apartment when we needed a place to be alone. The affair with Ethan started off as a whirlwind of passion and excitement. It was everything I'd been missing in my marriage. But as the weeks turned into months, the guilt began to eat away at me. I was living a double life, lying to Daniel and betraying his trust. The more time I spent with Ethan, the more I realized that this wasn't the solution to my problems. It was just a way to escape them. I tried to end the affair multiple times, but Alex would always convince me to keep going. He told me that it was just a phase and that I needed to see it through. He made me feel like I was doing the right thing, even though deep down, I knew I wasn't. Everything came crashing down one night when Daniel found a series of text messages between Ethan and me. He confronted me, and I couldn't deny it any longer. I confessed to the affair, and the look of betrayal and hurt on Daniel's face was something I will never forget. I had broken his heart and destroyed the trust we had built over the years. In the aftermath of the revelation, I cut off all contact with Ethan and tried to salvage what was left of my marriage. Daniel and I started couples therapy, trying to work through the pain and rebuild our relationship. It was during one of our sessions that I mentioned Alex's involvement, thinking that it would help Daniel understand how I had been manipulated. But instead of understanding, Daniel became furious. He couldn't believe that Alex, his friend, had played such a significant role in the affair. He confronted Alex, and their friendship was shattered. Alex tried to defend his actions, claiming that he was just trying to help me find happiness, but neither Daniel nor I could forgive him. As I continued therapy, I started to realize just how deeply Alex had manipulated me. He had taken advantage of my vulnerability and used it to push his own agenda. He wasn't just a supportive friend. He was the puppet master, pulling the strings and orchestrating the entire affair. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and shame. I had allowed myself to be manipulated, and in the process, I had hurt the person I loved most. Over the next few months, I focused on repairing my marriage. Daniel and I worked hard to rebuild our trust and reconnect on a deeper level. It wasn't easy, and there were many times when I thought we wouldn't make it. But slowly, we began to heal. We started to communicate better, to address the issues that had driven us apart, and to find ways to reignite the spark that had brought us together in the first place. Alex, on the other hand, became a ghost from my past. I cut all ties with him, unable to forgive the role he had played in the destruction of my marriage. It was a painful decision, but one that I knew was necessary for my own healing. I had to let go of the toxic influence he had on my life and focus on rebuilding a healthier, more honest future. As I look back on this experience, I realize how easily I was swayed by someone I thought I could trust. It's a stark reminder of the importance of listening to your own instincts and not allowing others to manipulate you for their own gain. I've learned to be more discerning about who I let into my life and to value honesty and integrity above all else. My marriage is still a work in progress, but it's stronger now than it has been in years. Daniel and I have found a new appreciation for each other, and we're committed to making our relationship work. The affair was a painful chapter in our story, but it also served as a wake-up call, forcing us to confront our issues and come out stronger on the other side. To anyone reading this who might be going through a similar experience, know that you're not alone. The pain of betrayal can be overwhelming, but with time, effort, and a commitment to healing, it is possible to rebuild and move forward. Trust yourself, value the people who truly care about you, and never let anyone manipulate you into making choices that go against your values and beliefs. Let's move on to the next story. ***, I accidentally found proof that my partner was dating my ex. During our relationship, life has a way of throwing unexpected curveballs at you, sometimes more shocking and heartbreaking than you could ever imagine. I had always thought that the worst betrayals were the ones you could see coming, the ones you could feel creeping up on you. But nothing could have prepared me for the devastating discovery that my partner, the person I trusted most, was secretly involved with my ex while we were together. This is the story of how I uncovered this shocking truth and the aftermath that followed. I met Olivia 3 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was everything I had ever wanted in a partner: intelligent, compassionate, and with a sense of humor that could light up the darkest room. We clicked instantly, and it wasn't long before we were spending almost every day together. Our relationship progressed quickly, and within a year, we had moved in together. I was blissfully happy and confident that I had found my soulmate. Before Olivia, there was Emily. Emily and I had a tumultuous relationship that lasted 2 years. It was a roller coaster of intense highs and devastating lows. We loved each other passionately, but our personalities clashed in ways that often led to explosive arguments. Eventually, the strain became too much, and we decided to part ways. The breakup was painful, but necessary, and I was determined to move on and find someone with whom I could have a healthier relationship. When Olivia and I started dating, I made a conscious effort to keep my past with Emily behind me. I wanted a fresh start, and Olivia seemed like the perfect person to help me build a new, happier chapter in my life. For a while, everything was perfect. Olivia and I shared many interests, supported each other's careers, and talked about our dreams for the future. It felt like a fairy tale, and I was living in a state of blissful ignorance. About 6 months ago, things started to change. Olivia became more secretive, often disappearing for hours without explanation. When I asked her where she had been, she would give vague answers or accuse me of being paranoid. I didn't want to believe that anything was wrong, but a nagging feeling in my gut told me otherwise. I tried to push it aside, telling myself that I was overreacting, but the suspicion continued to grow. One evening, while Olivia was out running errands, I decided to do some cleaning. Our shared laptop was lying on the coffee table, and I picked it up to wipe the dust off. As I did, the screen came to life, and I saw an open email that Olivia had forgotten to log out of. My heart skipped a beat when I saw the subject line: "Meeting Emily tonight." I felt a knot form in my stomach as I opened the email and began to read. The email was from Emily, and it was clear from the content that she and Olivia had been seeing each other regularly for months. They talked about their feelings for each other, their plans to meet up, and how they had to be careful to avoid me finding out. It was a punch to the gut, a betrayal so profound that I could hardly breathe. The woman I loved was having an affair with my ex, and they had both been lying to me. In a state of shock, I scrolled through the rest of Olivia's emails and found countless messages between her and Emily. It was all there in black and white, every secret meeting, every lie, every moment they had shared behind my back. The betrayal was more than I could bear, and I felt my world crumbling around me. When Olivia came home that night, I confronted her with the emails. At first, she tried to deny it, but when she saw the evidence, she broke down and confessed. She admitted that she had started seeing Emily shortly after we moved in together. She claimed that it had started as an innocent friendship, but had quickly developed into something more. She told me that she had never meant to hurt me, but that she couldn't deny her feelings for Emily. The days that followed were a blur of anger, sadness, and confusion. I couldn't understand how Olivia could do this to me, how she could betray my trust in such a profound way. I felt like a fool for not seeing the signs, for believing that our relationship was as perfect as it seemed. I cut off all contact with both Olivia and Emily, needing time and space to process what had happened. I moved out of the apartment we shared and stayed with a friend while I tried to piece my life back together. The pain of betrayal was overwhelming, and there were days when I didn't think I would ever be able to move on. I sought therapy to help me deal with the emotional fallout, and slowly I began to heal. In therapy, I learned to confront my feelings of anger and betrayal. I realized that while Olivia and Emily had both hurt me deeply, I couldn't let their actions define me. I had to find a way to move forward, to rebuild my life and my sense of self-worth. It was a long and difficult journey, but with the support of my friends and therapist, I began to find my footing again. One of the hardest parts of the healing process was learning to trust again, The betrayal had left deep scars, and I found it difficult to open up to anyone new. I was constantly afraid of being hurt again, of being lied to and manipulated. But I knew that I couldn't let my past experiences control my future. I had to find a way to let go of the pain and allow myself to be vulnerable again. About a year after discovering the affair, I met someone new. Her name was Jenna, and she was kind, patient, and understanding. She knew about my past and the betrayal I had experienced, and she was willing to take things slow. With Jenna, I found a sense of peace and stability that I had been missing for so long. She helped me to see that not everyone would hurt me, and that it was possible to build a healthy, trusting relationship. Jenna and I have been together for almost a year now, and while the scars from my past are still there, they are no longer as painful. I've learned to trust again, to open my heart and let someone in. The betrayal I experienced will always be a part of my story, but it no longer defines me. I am stronger now, more resilient, and more aware of the importance of honesty and trust in a relationship. Looking back, I realized that there were signs of the affair that I chose to ignore. I wanted so badly to believe in the fairy tale, to think that my relationship with Olivia was perfect, but the truth was always there, hidden beneath the surface. I have learned to trust my instincts and to pay attention to the red flags, no matter how small they may seem. To anyone reading this who might be going through a similar experience, know that you are not alone. The pain of betrayal can be overwhelming, but with time and support, it is possible to heal. Trust yourself, trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to seek help when you need it. The road to recovery is long, but it is worth it for the sake of finding happiness and peace. The discovery of Olivia's affair with Emily was a turning point in my life. It shattered my world, but it also forced me to confront my own fears and insecurities. It taught me the importance of trust and honesty in a relationship, and it showed me that even in the darkest moments, there is always a path to healing and growth. Today, I am in a much better place. My relationship with Jenna is built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect, and I am happier than I have been in a long time. The journey to get here was painful and difficult, but it was worth it. I have learned to value myself and to surround myself with people who truly care about me. Betrayal is a painful experience, but it doesn't have to define you. It is possible to move forward, to heal, and to find happiness again. Trust yourself, trust the process, and never lose hope. The future is always brighter than the past, and there's always a chance for a new beginning.